On a sun-drenched Wednesday afternoon, Captain Angela Pierce exited her nondescript police vehicle with the precision of someone who understood the weight of their position. Having come directly from an intense downtown briefing, her uniform bore an immaculate sheen, reflecting her commitment to the force. Angela, a commanding presence in her late 30s, exuded authority with every step. As one of the top-ranking officers in her precinct, her reputation for unwavering dedication and competence preceded her, earning admiration from colleagues and subordinates alike. A modest convenience store nestled at the edge of a weathered strip mall. This unassuming corner shop held a nostalgic charm for her, a haven where she often exchanged warm banter with Mr. Patel, the congenial store owner. As she entered, the familiar chime of the doorbell greeted her, but an inexplicable tension hung in the air. Shrugging off the unease, she attributed it to the lingering fatigue of a demanding day. Smile genuine, but fleeting, just grabbing a quick snack before heading back to the station. Unyielding, coupled with his intense scrutiny, sparked a twinge of discomfort. Angela's brow furrowed slightly. She rarely encountered officers she didn't recognize in this part of town, and his presence felt out of place. Paid for her items. But as she turned to leave, the officer's voice sliced through the air with unsettling authority. "Don't understand the reason for this request," she said evenly. Slightly. "Suspiciously?" she repeated, disbelief evident in her voice. "I'm Captain Angela Pierce of the Central City Police Department. You have no grounds for this." "Steele! Show me your ID! Now!" "Restraint?" She stepped forward, her authoritative voice cutting through the escalating tension. His weapon. "Turn around and put your hands behind your back," he ordered, his tone brooking no argument, seemed to constrict around her as Angela processed the gravity of his words. Her training had prepared her for hostile encounters, but never had she imagined herself on the receiving end of such blatant misuse of power. The humiliation of being publicly accused was a bitter pill to swallow. Through the small store, Mr. Patel, the cashier, stood frozen in shock, his face pale and his eyes filled with guilt and helplessness. Other customers stared in silence, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and fear. Street outside buzzed with onlookers, their whispers slicing through her composure. She kept her head high, refusing to let Stephen see her falter, even as her heart pounded with indignation and frustration. "Hold. You're digging yourself into a deeper hole with every step you take." Thoughts of betrayal and injustice. The streets she had patrolled for years now seemed alien, their familiarity overshadowed by the surreal nature of her predicament. How had she gone from a respected captain to a handcuffed suspect in the blink of an eye? Muted conversations. Colleagues paused mid-task, their wide-eyed stares filled with confusion and, in some cases, judgment. Stevens led her through the station with an air of triumph, his arrogance palpable. The weight of her colleagues' gazes was almost suffocating, but Angela refused to cower. She would face this with the dignity and strength that had defined her career. Desk, Officer Reynolds, a seasoned member of the force, raised his eyes from his paperwork, his face contorting into disbelief when he recognized her. Counter with smug satisfaction. "Caught her red-handed attempting to steal." "Rules, Reynolds. Nobody's above the law." Fingerprinting kit. His movements robotic and reluctant. Angela complied, her hands pressing into the ink, each motion a painful reminder of the unjust humiliation she was enduring. The sound of the camera flash that followed her mugshot felt like an indelible scar on her career. Her toward the holding cells, Angela couldn't shake the heavy silence that enveloped her. Each step through the cold, echoing corridors of the precinct seemed to strip away another layer of her identity. The steel bars of the cell loomed ahead, a stark reminder of her sudden fall from grace. When the door clanged shut behind her, the sound reverberated in her chest like a final judgment. She whispered, though her gratitude was laced with bitterness. Alone in the cell, her thoughts raced. How had things escalated so quickly? Why had Stevens targeted her so brazenly? The pieces didn't add up. But one thing was certain. This wasn't just about a missing bracelet. Something far more. Sinister was at play. Stevens's demeanor, his timing, it all felt orchestrated. Something akin to determination. His unease evident. "Unlock the cell," she ordered, her tone brooking no argument. The ordeal. Hayes motioned for her to follow, leading her down the corridor to a dimly lit office. Once inside, she shut the door firmly and gestured for Angela to sit. Steady, but edged with anger. Hayes listened intently, her expression unreadable. When Angela finished, the silence hung heavy between them. "Power," she said, her tone urgent. "We need to act before he can cover his tracks." "The store," she said. "It could prove my innocence." Indignation. "What's going on here?" he demanded, his eyes darting between Hayes and Angela. Suspects. Her kitchen table, poring over notes and reflecting on the day's events. Her phone buzzed, the name Marcus flashing on the screen. Marcus, her trusted partner, had been by her side through countless cases. Replied, "It's Stevens. He's trying to pin a theft on me." Following day, they began their investigation in earnest. Visiting the convenience store, they confronted Mr. Patel, who appeared visibly shaken. Under pressure, he admitted to being coerced by Stevens into filing the false report. "Said I'd regret it if I didn't." The stakes had never been higher, but Angela's resolve was unshakable. She wasn't just fighting for her career, she was fighting for justice. Patel's testimony was a start, but they needed irrefutable proof to expose Stevens and dismantle the web of lies he had spun. This had suspected portions of the footage were conspicuously missing. Untouched footage, it'll prove everything. They were closing in. After some convincing and a bit of legal pressure, they obtained the unedited recordings. Counter, slipping a bracelet into his pocket before signaling to Mr. Patel. Time. She convened a meeting with the precinct's senior leadership, presenting the evidence. The room fell into stunned silence as the recordings played, each frame exposing Stevens's deception. "This is a mistake," he stammered, his confidence evaporating. "You're all being misled." Sat quietly in Hayes's office, reflecting on everything that had transpired. "Have done this without you and Marcus." Followed, Angela focused on rebuilding. She worked closely with Hayes to implement changes within the department, ensuring that incidents like this would never happen again. Her ordeal became a catalyst for reform, sparking a broader conversation about accountability and integrity within law. Enforcement. Unwavering. Warm glow on the streets, Angela felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had fought for her truth, and she had won. Now, she was ready to forge a new path, one defined by courage, justice, and unwavering resolve. Through the window, the storm had passed, but the emotional weight of the ordeal lingered. Her mind drifted to the events that had unfolded, Stevens's manipulation, the arrest, the shame, and the long battle to clear her name. It was a chapter of her life she would never forget, yet one she knew would redefine her purpose. "Could have," Marcus said earnestly. "And you didn't just fight for yourself. You've paved the way for others who might have been victims of the same corruption." Herself. It was about setting a precedent, ensuring that no one else would have to endure the same injustice. The city. It wasn't just about one corrupt officer. It was about addressing a culture that had allowed his behavior to fester unchecked. Angela worked closely with Hayes to implement reforms, including stricter oversight and a transparent system for reporting misconduct. The process wasn't easy. Change never was, but it was necessary. Was from a young cadet who wrote, "Thank you for standing up to Stevens. You've shown me what true leadership looks like." Angela read the words multiple times, a sense of pride welling within her. If her experience could inspire even one person to demand accountability, then it had all been worth it. Toxic environment, Hayes admitted, her expression grim. "But now we have the leverage to clean house." empowering. For the first time, she felt she was making a tangible difference, not just as a police officer, but as a force for change. Sound bringing a mix of emotions. Mr. Patel looked up from behind the counter, his face lighting up with a smile. Sincere, I'm sorry again for my role in what happened. I'll never forget it. Now, brighter somehow. Perhaps it was because she had fought for it. Not just for herself, but for the community she had sworn to protect. Racial bias. Angela was invited to speak at panels, community events, and even national conferences, where she shared her experience and advocated for reform, fostering a culture of integrity and respect. Her ordeal had changed her, but it hadn't broken her. If anything, it had made her stronger. Smile. This isn't just my fight, it's ours. The community. The scandal involving Stevens had shaken public confidence in the department, and Angela knew that regaining trust would require transparency and consistent action. She listened intently as residents shared stories of their experiences with law enforcement, some positive, but many deeply painful. These sessions were emotional, but they also offered an opportunity for healing. You've been through, and we see what you're trying to do now. That gives us hope. Her words resonated with Angela, fueling her determination to ensure that no one would have to endure the kind of injustice she had faced. The department, a mentorship program aimed at fostering diversity and inclusion among new recruits. The program emphasized the importance of cultural competency, ethical decision-making, and community engagement, bringing a unique perspective to the force. Angela personally mentored several of them, sharing her insights and lessons learned. She often told them, leadership isn't about rank, it's about doing the right thing, even when it's hard. Expressing interest in adopting similar models. Angela's vision was becoming a reality, and the ripple effects of her efforts were spreading far and wide. Revisiting the events in her mind, the moment Stevens accused her, the humiliation of being handcuffed, and the fear that her career was over. These memories were painful, but Angela realized they were also a testament to her resilience, putting her thoughts into words. Over time, these entries evolved into a manuscript, a raw, honest account of her journey. When she shared it with Marcus, he encouraged her to publish it. Matters for Justice and Reform became an instant bestseller. Readers praised its authenticity and the powerful message it conveyed. The book didn't just recount Angela's struggles, it also highlighted the systemic issues within law enforcement and offered a roadmap for meaningful change. Launch event, Angela stood before a packed auditorium, her heart pounding with a mix of nerves and excitement. As she took the stage, the audience erupted in applause. A system may seem it can be changed if we have the courage to stand up and fight for what's right. Numerous accolades, including a national award for public service. While she appreciated the recognition, she remained humble, always redirecting the spotlight to the collective efforts of her team and community. Scars of her past were still there, but they no longer defined her. Instead, they served as a reminder of her strength and the importance of resilience. She corrected, a smile playing on her lips. And we're just getting started. Road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she was ready for the challenge. With pride, she had faced adversity and emerged stronger, not just for herself, but for those who would follow in her footsteps. As she stepped into her office, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The fight for justice was ongoing, but Angela knew she was exactly where she was meant to be, leading. With integrity, compassion, and courage, Angela remained firmly rooted in her role at the precinct. She believed that the most effective change came from within the system. Community members began to view the department as allies again, rather than adversaries. And younger recruits saw Angela as a symbol of resilience, proof that integrity and strength could coexist within the badge. Genuine relationships with residents. She organized outreach programs, from youth mentorship to community cleanup events, aimed at bridging the gap between law enforcement and the people they served. participate. I didn't think cops cared about us, he admitted, his voice tinged with both skepticism and hope. Nodded, his guarded expression softening. Moments like these reminded Angela why she had fought so hard, to make a difference where it mattered most. Ingrained biases. But Angela remained undeterred. She had learned that change required persistence, collaboration, and an unwavering belief in the possibility of a better future. "No," Hayes began, her tone warm, "that the mentorship program you started is being adopted statewide. This is your legacy, Angela." Journey had been fraught with challenges, but it had also been filled with triumphs that reaffirmed her purpose. Angela studied the man who had nearly destroyed her life. Stevens, once arrogant and unyielding, now looked defeated, slumping. "I thought I was untouchable," he admitted after a long silence. "I thought I could get away with anything." Actions had been a painful chapter in her life, but they no longer held power over her. She was free. "Pierce," the cadet began hesitantly, "I just wanted to say thank you. Your story inspired me to join the force," determination shining in his eyes. Angela saw in him the potential for the future, a future where officers upheld justice with integrity and compassion. Crowd before her was diverse, a reflection of the community she had dedicated her life to serving. "Can always do better." Circle. But her mission was far from over. She was ready for whatever came next, standing tall as a beacon of hope and perseverance. Organizations, local leaders, and even skeptical members of law enforcement to create a coalition dedicated to rebuilding trust between the police and the communities they served. Was a series of forums where officers and residents could engage in open dialogue. Angela personally moderated many of these sessions, using her experiences to bridge the gap between two often opposed sides. "Much in my time," he said, "but you, Captain Pierce, you're different. You give me hope." Efforts, dubbing her the reformer in blue. While the praise was gratifying, Angela remained grounded. She used the platform to amplify voices that often went unheard, ensuring that the stories of marginalized communities and overlooked officers were brought to light. "Interview," the host asked. "What keeps you going, Captain Pierce, despite all the challenges?" Gets. Methods to inadequate mental health resources for officers and civilians alike. Enforcement, legal experts, and community advocates. Its formation was met with resistance from some quarters, but Angela stood firm. Accountable. Colleagues, community leaders, and her closest friends, including Marcus and Hayes. Myself, but for everyone who believes in the power of justice. Responsibilities. New recruits entered the force with a renewed sense of purpose, while seasoned officers embraced opportunities for growth and learning. Steady with admiration. "I want to make a difference, just like you. Push boundaries, challenge norms, and advocate for those who couldn't fight for themselves." Her journey had been one of trials and triumphs, but she knew the work was never truly done. "So much, Angela," he said, his tone filled with pride. "Not just the department, but the world around you. Courage and hope." Her legacy wasn't just about the reforms she championed or the awards she received. It was about the lives she touched, the barriers she broke, and the truth she fought to reveal. A brighter future. She had faced darkness and emerged as a beacon of light, proving that even in the face of adversity, justice could prevail. Audiences from around the world. Her message was universal. Justice, accountability, and the power of truth transcend cultural and national boundaries. Leaders, activists, and law enforcement officials from across the globe. Around. Congress, seeking her insights on proposed reforms. Angela, armed with evidence, personal experiences, and a vision for a better future, presented her case with unwavering confidence. Failed? That's how we rebuild trust. The personal toll of her work. Late nights and long days meant less time with family and friends. There were moments of doubt, when the weight of responsibility felt almost too heavy to bear. Asked, "It's okay to take a step back and recharge." She began carving out time for herself, rediscovering hobbies she had long neglected, and strengthening her personal connections. It was a delicate balance, but one that gave her the resilience to keep moving forward. Academy within the department. The Academy focused on cultivating a new generation of officers who valued empathy, integrity, and innovation as much as enforcement. Her triumphs, but also her mistakes and the lessons they had taught her. Their own ego. Leadership is service, not status. Space. She watched as children played and families gathered, a reminder of the community she had devoted her life to protecting. Want to be like you when I grow up. And reforms. It was about inspiring individuals, one person at a time. Every challenge, every setback, had shaped her into the leader she was today. Working toward a common goal. Engagement strategies designed to be sustainable for decades to come. Most important thing you can do is stay true to yourself. Leadership is about authenticity. Don't let the system change who you are. Change the system instead. The time came for her to step down. Herself, but for the entire community she served. Patel were among the attendees, each person a reminder of the many connections she had forged. Her voice steady despite the emotion welling inside her. But service doesn't end with retirement. I may no longer wear the badge, but I will always fight for justice, for this community, and for those who come after me. Celebration, marking the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Sought-after advisor for cities looking to rebuild trust between law enforcement and their communities, where students were encouraged to challenge norms and envision a more equitable system. Remember, change starts with people like you. Focused on 3 core areas: training, community engagement, and policy advocacy. Policing models. The foundation also partnered with activists and lawmakers to push for comprehensive national reforms. Reflect on the path that had brought her to this point. She often returned to the quiet park where she had spoken to Jada years earlier. The space became a sanctuary, a place where she could think and recharge. Tipping his hat, "I just wanted to thank you. You made this city better for my grandkids." Each barrier she had broken was proof that change was possible. With a proposal for a new initiative, a program that paired veteran officers with community leaders to foster mutual understanding. She said, "You're taking everything we've worked for and building something even stronger." Synonymous with justice and reform. Schools taught her story as part of history curricula, and public buildings were named in her honor. The impact of her work could be seen not only in her city, but across the nation. A crowd that included generations of families she had served. As she unveiled the plaque bearing her name, she was overcome with emotion. All through the city she had devoted her life to, Angela felt a profound sense of peace. The work she had begun was far from over, but she knew she had done her part to lay the foundation for a better future. Ignite a movement. Angela Pierce's story was, and always would be, a beacon of hope for those who believed in the transformative power of justice. Projects, partnering with organizations focused on justice reform in countries facing similar challenges. From training law enforcement in equitable practices to addressing systemic corruption, Angela's expertise became a global asset. With local leaders to address the long-standing mistrust between law enforcement and marginalized communities. Standing before a diverse crowd, she shared her story, emphasizing the universal values of dignity and justice. But it's always possible when we choose to listen, learn, and act with integrity. Prestigious university, and a Lifetime Achievement Award for her contributions to social justice. While the recognition was humbling, Angela remained focused on the work. About every person who stood up and said, "Enough is enough." It's about those who believed in a better tomorrow and were brave enough to fight for it. To her family. Her parents, once skeptical of her decision to pursue a career in law enforcement, expressed immense pride in her journey. During a family gathering, her father, a retired teacher, spoke candidly. "You didn't just change the system, You changed lives. Officers across the country participating in workshops and training sessions. One of her mentees, Elena, rose to prominence as a leader in her own precinct, implementing Angela's principles with unwavering dedication. Directly. Captain Pierce, you taught us that leadership is about courage, compassion, and conviction. You didn't just teach us how to be better officers. You showed us how to be better people and turned them into action. That's what leadership looks like. Iconic words. Justice is not just a principle. It's a promise we make to each other. Monument isn't about the past. It's about the future. Let it serve as a reminder that we all have a role to play in creating a more just world. That became required reading in schools and universities. Watched the sun set over her beloved city. Angela whispered to herself, "We did it." Daunting, bringing together diverse nations with varying legal systems and histories of conflict, but Angela accepted without hesitation. We must learn to speak it fluently. Transparency, accountability, and human rights in law enforcement. Reality for all. Eyes shining with admiration. It showed me that even one person can make a difference. Change in their own communities. Attention of filmmakers, and a biographical movie was produced, chronicling her rise from a falsely accused officer to a global advocate for justice. The film, Unbroken, became a critical and commercial success, further amplifying Angela's impact. Alongside Marcus, Hayes, and Devon. As the film ended, the audience erupted into applause, many wiping away tears. Angela was invited on stage to speak. Inspire you to create your own story of courage and change. Officers recognized her. They stopped what they were doing to greet her warmly. Portrait hung prominently in the main hallway. Precinct years ago, but her influence was still alive, shaping its future. Different communities. Adversaries but as partners in progress. Celebrating progress in human rights and law enforcement reform. The announcement was accompanied by a resolution outlining her contributions to society. The power we hold to make the world a better place. Surrounded by family and friends, she continued to mentor young leaders and write about her experiences, but she also found time to enjoy life's simple pleasures. Gardening, painting, and spending time with her grandchildren. Reflected on her journey, she thought of the obstacles she had faced, the lives she had touched, and the change she had helped create. A sense of peace washed over her. Better than good, Angela. We changed the world. For research, training, and community engagement, fostering innovation in law enforcement and justice reform. Enforcement gave the opening remarks. Past? It's about the future, she said. It's a place where we'll continue to ask hard questions, seek bold answers, and fight for what's right. Ripple across generations. At universities, her writings were included in curricula on criminal justice and ethics. Students often cited her as a source of inspiration, writing essays and dissertations on her innovative approaches to reform. Story taught me that one person can make a difference, Maya wrote in a heartfelt letter. I'm now pursuing a career in policy because I want to be part of the change. As Angela dedicated her later years to nurturing the next wave of changemakers, transformation they had worked so hard to achieve. Glass. Here's to Angela for showing us what leadership and courage truly look like, of unity and friendship in the face of adversity. Voice steady despite her frailty. I've learned that justice isn't a destination. It's a journey. It's a commitment we renew every day through our actions and our choices. Community, your workplace, or your family, stand up for what's right. Because when we act with courage and integrity, we create a ripple effect that can change the world. Justice! Eulogy at her memorial service. Angela Pierce was more than a leader. She was a force of nature, Devon said. Her courage and compassion changed the world. And though she's no longer with us, her legacy will endure. Of amazing grace, Angela's family, friends, and colleagues left the church with a shared resolve to carry her vision forward. A lifeline for communities seeking to address inequities and implement meaningful change. Possible without Angela Pierce, her belief in justice gave us the tools to make a difference. Museums chronicled her life, ensuring that her contributions would never be forgotten. In communities, people saw her as a reminder that one person's courage could ignite a movement. Became an annual celebration on Justice Day, a holiday established in her honor. Across the nation, communities hosted events inspired by her work, rallies, workshops, and discussions aimed at fostering justice and equality. Year, culminating in a ceremony at the Angela Pierce Center for Justice. The event drew people from all walks of life, united by their shared admiration for her legacy. Contest about Angela's life. Leah's voice trembled with emotion as she read her words. 2 of her small but significant acts of compassion. Through a difficult time, encouraging her to pursue her dreams. Enduring qualities. Elena spoke about Angela's influence. Captain Pierce didn't just teach us how to be better officers, she taught us how to be better people. Her lessons will guide me for the rest of my life. Seeing in their communities was established in her honor, bringing together leaders, activists, and educators to discuss progress and challenges in law enforcement and social justice. The event, named the Pierce Summit for Global Justice, became a catalyst for innovation and reform worldwide. Angela's passing, Marcus delivered the opening remarks. Angela believed that justice wasn't confined by borders, he said. She showed us that when we work together, we can achieve extraordinary things. Young lawyer named Sophia credited Angela for inspiring her to pursue a career in public service. Compassion and resilience. Murals depicting her likeness adorned walls in cities around the world, often accompanied by her most famous quotes. In Central City, a particularly striking mural featured Angela standing tall with her hands open, as though inviting everyone to join her in the pursuit of justice. Published posthumously, became a global bestseller. The book, titled Standing Tall, A Life of Courage and Justice, offered an intimate look at her journey, from her early days as a police officer to her later work as a global advocate. That the fight for justice is never over. It's a responsibility we all share, a promise we make to each other every day. If my story has inspired you, then I ask only this: carry the torch forward. Together, we can create a world where justice truly prevails. Wave of interest in her work, ensuring that her vision would continue to inspire for generations to come. Into opportunities for change, her story became a light in dark times, a reminder that justice, though often elusive, is always worth pursuing. Systems she reformed, and the countless individuals who carried her vision forward. Meaningful change. If you found inspiration in her journey, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and activate the notification bell to stay connected with our future content. Share your reflections in the comments below. We'd love to hear how Angela's story has inspired you. Until next time, keep striving for justice, compassion, and unity.